What's up, guys? CB Picks here. We're going to go through the day 3 recap and picks for the Bucharest Open. And guys, I do apologize. For some reason, I must have missed the qualifiers getting through, so I didn't have picks for those matches. But we're going to get right back on track. Let's take a look at the draw. And here's a look at Diallo's half of the draw. And guys, quick note here. We're going to move the records to the end of the video, so that way if you want to see them, you can just wait till the end. But if not, you're not waiting and scrolling through everything. So we'll make it easier for you guys. Let's take a look at Diallo's half of the draw. We got Diallo playing Molcan. Molcan taking out Arnaldi 6-3, 6-1 in pretty impressive fashion. Molcan coming through the qualifiers. He beat Billy Harris 6-1, 7-6. He beat Jay Clark 6-3, 5-7, 7-6. Neither of those guys I don't think are truly clay quarters. Arnaldi a little bit closer to clay quarters. 6-3, 6-1 win for Molcan. That's a nice win for him. He now takes on Diallo, who hasn't played a clay court match yet, and something tells me that this match is going to be kind of tricky. Even though you look at Diallo, he's the number 1 seed. He's coming in. He's got a lot of confidence. Lost to Umber in Miami. Made it out to the third round of Indian Wells, losing to Felix in 3 tough sets, but beating Bellucci and Rublev on the way there. And guys, it's kind of funny. For some reason, I thought he made it out to the 4th round. Like, I really convinced myself that it was a much better run than a 3rd round run. And 2-3 years down the road, we're never gonna remember that Diallo made it out. But I guess for Diallo standards, this was a pretty good run. So now he gets onto the clay, where he hasn't had much success. Last year he was 8-7. The year before he was 7-6. He's only 17-15 overall on the clay. So you can tell Gabriel Diallo, not a fan of the clay, likes the grass 17-12, likes the indoor hardcourt 51-29, likes the outdoor hardcourt 90-57. Molcan, on the other hand, plays mostly on the clay. He is 204 and 111 overall in his lifetime on the clay. 5-1 this year. 38-10 last year. Only 10-11 the year before, but it looks like he had a shortened season, so potentially an injury there. I like Molcan to kind of push Diallo a little bit. No head-to-head for these guys, of course. We have Molcan's going on about 6 hours on court, so that's something we got to look out for. Are those legs going to hold up? Especially because I think this is going to be a 3-setter. I think it's going to be a tricky match for Diallo. He's playing a guy that likes to play on this surface. I'm sure he would have preferred to have played maybe like a Shevchenko, just like looking at this draw. Like someone like that might not be as comfortable on the surface. But now Diallo's playing someone that's fairly comfortable on the surface. He's probably going to grind him out. He's going to neutralize that big serve of Diallo. Diallo's going to have to try to play his first strike tennis on a slower surface. That's going to be some problems here. It wouldn't surprise me if Molcan won this match, but I just think Diallo's got to get off to a good start here on the clay just to kind of get the confidence rolling again. So I'm going to go with Diallo. I think it's going to be a little bit of a break-in period here. Give me Diallo in 3 sets. Next match, we have Moller taking on Navone, and Moller able to get through Boitan 6-3, 7-5, and I wasn't really able to see any of that match. Boitan, a Romanian player, so he had the crowd with him. Was able to challenge Moller a little bit here. Let's take a look at this match. A lot of breaks here. A lot of break chances. Moller able to break to go up 3-1, 4-1, then hold on to win 6-3. And we had 5 breaks in the second set. A lot of back and forth there. Probably a lot of nerves from Boitan. So chances for Boitan to potentially win that second set and maybe push Moller a little bit more, but not to be. And nice win for Moller. Here's on a 3-match losing streak dating back to the 26th of February, where he lost to Sarundalo, beat Burchaga on the 24th of February in Santiago. That's the Chile Open. Moller has comfort on the clay. 31-17 last year on the clay, 52-21 in 2024, 31-8 in 2023. He does have that familiarity on this surface. Now he's kind of stepping up a little bit. I assume that most of those were challenger level matches. Now we're seeing him in these 250s like Bucharest, like Chile, like Rio de Janeiro, so he has to step up now, and he's not really seeing the results that he saw on the challenger and like M25 level. And he takes on a tough customer in Mariano Navone. And Navone coming off a tough loss to Vachero, 6-3, 6-4 in Miami. And he took on O'Connell. And this match was a pretty nice performance from Navone. Obviously, you can tell this guy really enjoys the clay. 30-16 last year, 27-14 the year before, 40-21 the year before that. He's 246 and 132 overall in the career. He likes playing on the surface, and you could really tell the movement was there. He exposed a lot of the uncomfortability of O'Connell on this. O'Connell's got that one-hander, and Navone did such a great job of just kind of opening the court up and hitting to the one-hander, but also hitting behind O'Connell, who had to recover a lot of times because he was stepping around to hit the forehand. So good job from Navone being able to get through that match in straight sets. It did get a little bit sticky in the second set breaker. So Navone, that might have gone 3 sets, and I think that would have made maybe this Moller match a little bit tougher if Navone had to grind out another tough match. And O'Connell did his best to impose his offensive style on Navone, but again, the clay just a little bit too slow, and Navone able to move O'Connell and expose that movement and him being uncomfortable on that clay surface. So he gets through in straight sets with a nice win there. Now he takes on Moller, and these guys have not played before. As we mentioned before, Navone pretty comfortable on the surface, 30-16 last year compared to the 31-17 of Moller. So splitting hairs really. I like Navone to be able to step up. Obviously, I think his 30-16 is on like the 250, 500, 1,000 level more so than Moller's is. Moller's just more a challenger and ITF level. So gotta give it to Navone here. I think this is gonna be an interesting match. I'm really curious to see if Moller's gonna be able to step up here. He did have chances to step up against Cerundolo, very good clay quarter, and Moller lost 6-2, 6-2. And I remember that match, not really that close, but Moller had some shots. He's got length, so he had some shots where he was able to connect, but the Cerundolo forehand was just too much for him. Now, Navone's not the type of player that's going to beat you up like that with one shot. He's the type of player that's going to be almost like death by 1,000 cuts. He's going to kind of like move you around, get to the open court, come into net. He's not really gonna be blasting shots through you. So it'll be interesting to see how Moller handles that type of style, or how Moller handles that type of style. But I'm gonna go with Navone. I think he's gonna win in straight sets. I feel like one set's gonna be tough, and then Navone's gonna able to roll in the second set. So let's go with Navone in straights. Our next match is Nuno Borges taking on Damir Dzumhur, and Dzumhur able to get through a tough match against Giano, 6-3, 4-6, 7-6, and if we remember, he did play the same player in Giano in the same tournament and won in another 3-setter. So this more of the same. And guys, I felt like there were some opportunities for Dzumhur to win in straights, but he always tends to like get in his own way. He seems to be his worst enemy, his worst opponent. And that could be a reason why this guy hasn't been able to make it up any higher. He was as high as 23 in the world, but sitting at 74 right now. And I feel like there's a lot of times he just kind of gets maybe a little too over frustrated. And then sometimes he's like trying to jar with the opponent too, and it's kind of like just like, hey, like focus on your own thing, like do your own thing. But this was a fun match to watch. It felt like for a set and a half, it was mostly Dzumhur controlling and Giano able to get the crowd into it. He was down a break in the third set, and it felt like, I think it was 4-1. It felt really like Dzumhur was just going to cruise. I think Dzumhur had a point for 5-1, and then the whole thing kind of turned, and Giannou gained a lot of momentum. The crowd is just so loud and boisterous against Dzumhur, and it was a really fun match to watch for sure. Watching these guys go at it and play. Giannou just coming up a little bit short in that breaker. Had a few chances, I think. He broke Dzumhur and served for the match. So, Dzumhur having that 4-1 break, goes down, gets broken at 5-all. Giannou not able to convert. Dzumhur able to get it to a breaker and wins the breaker 7-4. Just a really tough result for Giannou. I feel like, going into the locker room, he's got to be disappointed because you really felt like you had him. You had the momentum. You got the break. The crowd is on your side. You had everything rolling and you weren't able to convert there. So, and then on Dzumhur's side, great win for him. To come in and face that adversity with the crowd, with blowing a few leads, just able to come back and win that match is going to give him some confidence. He takes on Nuno Borges now, and looking at their head-to-head, it is 2-0 for Borges. They met in 2020 on the clay in Lisbon, where Borges was able to win 7-6, 6-1. And then they played in Hong Kong earlier this year, and Borges won 6-4, 6-3 in the first round. Hong Kong's a hard court. Borges has not played a match on the clay, so we got to be aware of that. Dzumhur's played 4 matches now on the clay. He's 2-2 on the year on the clay. Borges coming off that very tough loss to Riley Opelka in Miami, 6-7, 6-2, 7-6. Had some chances there to win that match. But again, we talk about Nuno Borges. He doesn't have a lot of weapons. He just is able to get a lot of balls back and kind of grind you down. And it makes sense why maybe the clay might be a little bit of a better surface for him. He was 9-11 in 2025, 13-7 in 2024, 8-7 in 2023. So not that much better on the clay than he is on the hard. Or sorry, he's not better on the clay. He's just slightly better on the outdoor hard court. Dzumhur, on the other hand, 2-2 this year, 21-16 last year, and 28-7 the year before. So Dzumhur a little bit more comfortable on this surface. I think this is going to be a little bit of a tricky match. It's very tough for me to pick Dzumhur when, I do feel like he could go off at any time, and then all of a sudden he's down a set and a break, and you're like, okay, great. It's the match basically feels like it's over. Borges' style is going to bother him. He moves very well. Obviously, we've seen, Dzumhur hasn't won a set against this guy, and I think it kind of stays the same here. I'm going to pick Borges to win. I think the first set's probably going to be a little bit close. I wouldn't be surprised if Borges lost that first, but I don't see him losing this match. I see him winning the first set in a close first set, a 7-5 or a 7-6, and then Borges able to kind of break it open against Dzumhur, who might get a little bit down on himself after losing that first set. So give me Borges in straight sets. Next match we have Shevchenko taking on Bodek van de Zandschulp, and Shevchenko kind of keeping it rolling here, getting a nice 6-2, 6-4 win over Turkanu. And guys, again, unfortunately, neither of these matches I was able to watch. I don't know if they had the courts streamed. There was only like 6 matches, I think, that I was able to watch. So I do apologize that there's not a lot of breakdown here of some of these matches, kind of like what we were able to see. But as the tournament progresses, we'll have tons of breakdowns. We'll be able to see most of these matches. Let's take a look at the stats on this Turkanu match. And Turkanu sitting at 659 in the world. So obviously we would expect Shevchenko to win in straights, and I think that's what we predicted. He won in a little over an hour. 23 winners, 2 aces. Shevchenko first serves at 65%, won 70% of those, won 72% of his second serves. That's huge for a guy like Shevchenko. And Turkanu at 38% second serves. That's going to cost you for sure. Turkanu 1 of 2 on break points. Shevchenko 4 of 9. So obviously having a pretty nice field day against the Turkanu serve here, it looks like. So good straight set win for him to kind of get his feet wet on the clay. That was his first match on the clay. And it was also Zandschulp's first match on the clay as well. He beat Maestrelli, and Maestrelli's a little bit better, a stronger of a player than Turkanu. So this was a nice straight set win for him. Maestrelli 114. We remember him making it out of the qualifiers in Australia and playing Djokovic, I believe it was, at the Australian Open. And Maestrelli didn't play a bad match. He was 83% first serves in, won 62% of those. But the kicker was when he missed that first serve, he was only 14% of the time winning those points on the second serve. And that's where Bodek van de Zandschulp makes his living, on the second serves of the opponents. So Bodek, on the other hand, 27 winners, 2 aces, 3 doubles, not great. 75% first serves in. 65% first serves in, won 75% of those points. So pretty nice clean game. 53% of second service points won. And he was able to get a pretty early break and cruise to that first set. And then another early break in the second set to cruise to a 6-3, 6-2 win. So good result there for Bodek. I thought that was going to be a little bit of a trickier matchup. Shevchenko coming off a third round loss in Miami to Humbert, 6-4, 7-6. And he did have a great win against Shelton in straight sets and a good win over Arnaldi in 3 sets. Sorry, Shelton was in 3 sets. Arnaldi was in 3 sets. And the Arnaldi match, I mean, we're not going to go over it again. It was a really weird match. There were some delays. I think it was rain and then lights. So just a little bit of a weird match for him to kind of get through there. He did have control of the match and then gave it up, lost the second set, but was able to bounce back and win in 3. Bodek van de Zandschulp coming off a 3-set loss to Taylor Fritz, which is a pretty nice showing in Miami for him. He beat Chapo in the first round in straights. Both these guys, I wouldn't call them clay quarters. I think they more so prefer the hard court surface. And it's kind of interesting. Well, we'll talk about this in a second. That I feel like I've been saying this about a lot of these guys, but their head-to-head is 1-0 for Shevchenko. He was able to win in 2023 in the Astana Open, 6-4, 6-3 in the first round. That's an indoor hard court, so not sure how much we can weigh on that. Let me just check these guys' records here at Bucharest. This is Shevchenko's first Bucharest Open. Let's see how Bodek has done here. This is also his first. So not really much we can go off here, guys. I think this is going to be a really tough match. I think a 3-setter for sure. I'm going to go with Shevchenko here to carry his momentum into the quarterfinals. I really like the way he's been playing. I think his aggression looks pretty good. I love the way he looked against Shelton. I thought everyone counted him out in that match. Shelton had chances where he would have been able to break and just hold and win in straights, but Shevchenko toughed it out and was able to get a nice, gritty win in Miami. I'm going to go with Shevchenko here to win in 3 sets. And here's a look at Diallo's half of the draw with our quarterfinal picks. And, guys, like you obviously just have heard me say over and over again, clay's not their preferred surface. And I kind of feel like that's true with everybody except Navone. And I would expect Navone to maybe make a run and win this half of the draw and get out to the finals. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who's gonna really push him here. Maybe unless one of these guys gets pretty hot, but I don't see it happening. Moller's probably his toughest one. I think Navone handles Diallo pretty easily with the way that he can move a player around. I mean, if Diallo can hit the ball clean and keeps the ball in front of him, it's a much harder game. But he's on the clay. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to kind of hit through a guy. Nuno Borges, we know, doesn't have the firepower, has the legs, can kind of like deflect some balls, so maybe he'll pose a little bit of a challenge there. Shevchenko is not a clay quarter, so I gotta go with Navone to come out of this draw. We'll see how he does in the next round here. I thought he looked pretty good against O'Connell. A few lapses of focus there, but I'm gonna go with Navone to get out of this half. Here's a look at Mannarino's half of the draw. First match we're going to look at is Altmaier playing Prizmic, and Altmaier able to get a nice win over Martinez 6-1, 6-4. And Martinez not really heading in the right direction right now. He did have a 2-0 head-to-head, I believe, against Altmaier, but Altmaier definitely playing the more confident tennis, coming off that Naples Challenger final against Medjedovic, lost in straight sets, but able to gain a little bit of confidence. And you could see that today. This was one of the matches that was streamed, and don't get that 6-4 set kind of like twisted there. It was all Altmaier. Like he was just playing extremely smart. There was not really much that Martinez could do. Martinez trying to throw in the heavy spin, but Altmaier able to counter that. And I just really like what I was seeing from Altmaier coming in with that confidence, definitely trusting his footing on the clay. And Martinez, his season is just not moving in the right direction. The next match was Prizmic taking out Basilashvili 6-4, 6-2, and Basilashvili not a bad player. I believe he came through the qualifiers. Prizmic able to dispatch him easily in straights. This was another match that we weren't able to get eyes on because I don't know if there was a live stream available of it. Prizmic's coming off a tough match against Arthur Fils. He did have to retire, so he was able to get through qualifying, beating Darwin Blanche in the first round of qualifiers. Vukic in the second round of qualifiers, and then he had that tough, grinded out win against School Kate in the first round of Indian Wells. And I don't know if you guys remember that. That was a little bit of a back and forth match, a lot of long points, and Prizm was just able to power through that match, hit a few big shots, and get the win over School Kate. He then comes in against Arthur Fils a few days later and has to retire, being down 6-2, 3-2 with a shoulder injury. So got to look out for that as he starts to progress deeper in these draws. Now, he did make a nice run at the Chile Open as well, beating the Brazilian Hyde in straight sets, Delian in 3 tough sets, and he played Nicolas Jarry. And this is why I'm bringing that up. 1, because it's on clay, but 2, because he played Jarry. And Jarry, the Chilean player, got a wild card into the first round of this tournament, and the crowd was crazy in this match. Whistling, screaming, just lots of distractions. But Prizmic able to get through 6-3, 5-7, 6-2, and that just to me shows a little bit of maturity from Prizmic, who is only 20 years old, just to be able to get through a tricky match like that, where a lot of players that are younger might let the crowd start to get a little bit under their skin, but not so much there with Prizmic. He loses a tough 3-setter to Galbes in the second round of the Chile Open, but he's a solid clay quarter. I really like what I'm seeing from him. No head-to-head from these guys. And I don't give. I mean, Basilashvili and Martinez are both, not the greatest of players for me to say, like, wow, this was a great win for them. Obviously, a good win for Altmaier to get that head-to-head a little bit more under control against Martinez. And I do like Altmaier going into the Naples Challenger, getting to the finals. He's going to have some confidence here. I do question the stamina of Altmaier. Is he going to be able to play maybe a potentially longer match here in the round of 16? And if he wins that, is he going to be able to win a tough quarterfinal match too? I don't think he wins here though. I like Prizmic. Prizmic sitting at 6-2 right now on the clay, and Altmaier sitting at 5-3 on the clay. Altmaier was 13-8 last year. Prizmic 23-6 last year as well. So I gotta go with Prizmic here. I think he's gonna pull the upset. Quote upset. I think he's the better clay quarter, and I think he's gonna give Altmaier tons of trouble here. We didn't see like an aggressive style from Martinez, and we're gonna see that with Prizmic. He's gonna really force the issue against Altmaier, and if those Altmaier legs aren't there, this might be quick work for Prizmic. But give me Prizmic to win in 3 sets. This next one's going to be really tough for me because I told you guys Meriden is on my no pick list, but now you're really testing it. He's playing the 225th ranked player in the world. So I told myself I'm not picking Meriden again. It's just been too much. He has lost 6 of his last 7 matches. Now, some of them have been fairly competitive, but for me, I'm still just so that Bautista Agut 3 set loss just killed me. I just can't get over that he lost to Bautista Agut, especially the way that he was playing. And that match really felt like a must win for Meriden after losing, second round of Rublev in Doha, first round of Rinderknecht in Dubai. It felt like he's coming out here in order to keep that confidence going. He's gonna have to knock out Bautista Agut and maybe get that mojo back, and instead he loses in 3 sets, then goes to Miami, gets a tough draw against Fonseca. The Fonseca crowd in Miami is wild, so he loses that match in 3 sets. But this is going to be a very tricky one for me. Stefanos Sakellaridis, pardon my pronunciation here, gets through the qualifying. He hasn't dropped a set here in Bucharest. Beats Zhang, beats Kuzmanov, and beats Choinsky all in straight sets. And I'm so sad that we weren't able to watch this match because I would have loved to have seen him kind of get a nice win over Choinsky, because this is a guy that has been mostly on the challenger. So to be able to step up, you get into the qualifying of a 250. It's a great opportunity for you. You get through the qualifying, and now you have a chance to win a main draw match, and you're able to do that at 21 years old. That's a huge accomplishment. So hats off to him. A very nice win. Now he plays a guy of a much higher caliber in Meriden. But is it a much higher caliber? We don't know what we're going to get from Meriden. This would be the most disappointing loss for Meriden if he loses this match. Looking at their clay court records, Sakellaridis is 4-1 on the clay, 11-8 last year, 8-4 the year before. Meriden is 0-1 on the clay this year, 9-6 in 2025, 5-8 in 2024. No head-to-head here for these guys, obviously. I gotta go with Meriden. I gotta go against my rule, my no pick rule. Hate doing it, but I think he's gonna win this match. If Prizmic gets through into the quarterfinals, I'm taking Prizmic over Meriden. I'm already saying that right now. I'm gonna go with Meriden. He's gonna win in 3 sets. I bet he makes this like the most difficult match it could ever be. So give me Meriden in 3 sets. Next match is Baez against Droguet, and was able to get eyes on the Baez match against Galbas, and this was a pretty straightforward match. Galbas just no offense really hurt Baez. Baez able to just step in, took a lot of balls early, was neutralizing the heavy spin that Galbas was giving Baez, and just not really much Galvez could do to affect Baez's game. And good to see Baez kind of back on the clay. I know we kind of talked about he seems like a very solid player, has a great record on the clay. 5-3 right now, 17-14 last year, 26-11 the year before. But we do remember him for some of his big hard court wins as well, and played pretty well on the hard court this year. He's 10-4 right now in the outdoor hard courts, so pretty solid record. Droguet, we remember from the Montpellier Challenger or Montpellier 250, where he played Felix in the semifinals, losing to him in 3 sets, 6-4, 6-7, 6-1. But had a nice win over Kova and a nice win over Griekspoor, beating Griekspoor in straight sets indoors too with that Griekspoor serve. Pretty impressive from Droguet. It looks to me like Droguet really prefers that indoor surface, like the faster moving surface. 1-0 on the clay this year with his one win over Bautista Agut, and 22-9 last year on the clay, 18-8 on the clay in 2024. This Bautista Agut match, wasn't able to watch it, but looks like a really weird result. 6-1, 1-6, 6-1. So not really sure what was happening there. Maybe a little bit of a lapse of focus from Droguet. And obviously, when you play somebody like Baez, you cannot afford to have a lapse of focus there. But would love to, if anybody has any information about this, that Droguet Bautista Agut match, would love to hear about it. If there was like an injury or something happened, not really sure what was going on there. Looking at this matchup, head-to-head, these guys have not met before, and we did talk about their clay court records. Droguet a little bit better than Baez, but Baez probably playing a little bit of the higher caliber of players on the clay, kind of being in all the Master Series and the 500s and the 250s. Droguet more so playing challengers, so kind of padding that record a little bit. I'm going to go with Baez here. I think this is going to be a tough match, though. Droguet has some good offense. I think he's going to be a little bit tricky here. I'm going to go with Baez to win in 3 sets. Wouldn't surprise me if Droguet won, but the weird score against Bautista Agut kind of makes me nervous for picking him. Like, you're going to have to really bring it against Baez. You cannot let up at all if you're going to beat this guy. So give me Baez in 3 sets. And our final match is Merida taking on Mannarino, and this match is really interesting to me. I know Mannarino's the 2 seed, and God, I wish Merida didn't go three just tough sets with Virtanen today. I mean, I feel like that match has got to take a lot out of you. That was almost a 3-hour match, 2 hours 51 minutes, but he loves to grind out these matches. He's a great clay quarter. No head-to-head for these guys. Obviously, Merida has been hanging around the challengers, but we do remember him from Indian Wells, where he won the first 2 rounds of qualifiers, beating Kipson. Nice win, especially after Kipson's nice run in Acapulco. And then he beat Dane Sweeney, who has looked pretty good. Had that tough match against Monfils in the Australian Open. But Dane Sweeney, another challenger level player that we got to keep our eyes out for. And Merida able to beat both these guys in 3 sets. Loses in straights to Alex Mickelson. Not a bad loss. 6-3, 6-4. Just a couple of breaks. Plays Marcos Giron in the Phoenix Challenger. And I'm not sure what happened there. 6-0, 6-1 loss. That's a little bit tough. And then beats Fortuna in the first round of qualifying for Miami. Loses to Zach Schweida in 3 sets. Comes over to Bucharest, wins his 2 qualifying matches, plays Virtanen, and is able to beat him in 3 tough sets. Let's just take a look at that breakdown of this match, kind of like what happened. Oh my God. The second set, Merida had a 3-0 lead. So he did have a lot of chances, and then he gave it right back. A lot of back and forth here. Was not able to get my eyes on this one. This was another one that wasn't able to be on the live stream. So I just love the fight that Merida gives, especially in these clay court matches. Let me just read off to you his clay court record. 3-1 this year, 35-16 last year, 40-23 the year before. He loves the clay. Let me read you Mannarino's clay court records. 0-0 this year, hasn't played yet. 5-9 the year before, 5-9 in 2025, 0-5 in 2024, 2-8 in 2023, 1-6 in 2022, 0-7 in 2021, 0-3 in 2020. This guy doesn't like playing on this surface, and I feel like maybe the older you get, the harder it becomes to play on the surface, because the court is slow, so you gotta be able to kind of like move and glide a little bit on the surface to be able to win some matches. This is going to be a tough match. If Merida can bring his A game, he's winning this match. Now, how much does he have left in the tank? I don't know. This is a good test for me and a good way for Merida to kind of put his name out on the map here and beat Mannarino. But guys, I gotta go with Merida to get the upset here. I know that sounds crazy. I feel like he's probably a pretty big underdog here against Mannarino, especially after that tough 3-setter. But I like him. I've followed him a lot in the challengers. It was great seeing him come out and play win the qualifiers in Indian Wells and play Mickelson pretty tough. I'm gonna go with Merida. I think he wins this in 3 sets. Here's a look at Mannarino's half of the draw with my picks. And guys, how about a Prizmic Merida semifinal? Like, that would be awesome. To see those two guys that have been kind of like hitting around in the challenger level to get out here, and one of them gets a chance to get to a final of a 250. Tons of opportunity there. Baez obviously going to be a very tricky customer. Maroszan, I don't know. Mannarino obviously will be a tough match for Merida. How much is he going to have if he plays another tough 3-setter against Mannarino? How much is he going to have to play Baez? Maybe Baez just gets a nice match against a very tired Merida. Prizmic, I like with his power, if he can really start to like lock in and really connect with some of those forehands. He's going to be a tricky out as well. Let me know what you guys think. Share your picks in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Here's a look at our first round records. And we're at 6-3 right now. The reason that number's short is we did miss a few of those qualifier matches. I'm not really sure what happened there, so I do apologize for that. But honestly, though, looking at those qualifier matches that came through, I think I would have been like 50-50 on them. Probably would have taken Merida to win. Would not have picked that Greek player to win. So, I think 6-3 seems about right anyways. But we're going to keep track of our records, and we'll keep these at the end of the video as well. And thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. Would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget, we also have a Marrakesh Open recap as well as a Houston Open recap with our picks going in. These videos are kind of extending a little bit longer, so you guys can tell I'm like pretty excited. I really like talking about these clay court matches and these matchups. We're getting a totally different look at these players now on the clay, so it makes it a little bit fun as the season progresses on. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.